This is a voice cover video. If you feel uncomfortable, then you can mute it. It's a boy and boy fan fiction. If you're homophobic, kindly leave. Remember, it's just a fictional work. It has nothing to do with the reality. And if I do any mistake in voice cover, then please forgive me. Yoonmin entered inside a cafe with his straight face, trying to smile and look normal. But his mind is no longer present there with him. He came to the cafe to meet his fiancée, as his father told him that he wants to meet him. First, Yoonmin denied, but he has to get agreed because of his father. His mind is totally messed up with the thoughts about Yoonmin. He knows that it's not good to ruin anyone's life, that too when you already have feelings for someone else. It's like a betrayal, but he is not in his senses. He knows that he doesn't want to meet that guy, and the reason is all in front of him. With so many thoughts, he walked towards the table and stood there. As he looked at the guy, he exclaimed in amazement, "You?" The guy stood up from the chair with a smile and said, "Nice to meet you again, Park Jimin. Have a seat, please." He pulled out the chair for Jimin, then again sat on his one. "I thought you would forget me because we just met once in that bar, but I'm glad to know you still remember me." "I'm sorry, but I cannot remember your name properly." "Oh, it's fine. Let me introduce you once again. I'm King Song-yu, your fiancé and soon-to-be husband." "Oh, King Song-yu, nice to meet you," Jimin said, still maintaining a smile. "I'm glad you came to me." I'm sorry, I didn't mean..." "It's okay. You must have your own reasons. By the way, what would you like to drink?" "Just a glass of tangerine juice." His eyes became numb when he remembered Yoongi, as it's his favorite flavor. He shrugged his thoughts, controlling his fears, while plastering a smile on his lips. After spending some time together, Jimin left from there towards the bar to find Yoongi again. But there, he came to know that Yoongi left his job and went to his hometown. Jimin asked Jin to tell him the address, but Jin said that he doesn't know about his address. Jimin felt like his all hopes faded away to meet Yoongi again. Accepting his fate, he left from there. And finally, the day came when he was going to get married to Song-yu. He was looking himself in the mirror wearing a white wedding suit, looking beautiful. His dark circles are covered up in the light makeup he did. Jimin point of view. What a fate I got. I was supposed to get ready for someone else, but now, should I blame myself for it? He left without even saying anything. But why would he talk to me? I'm nothing to him. And now, I'm going to get married with someone whom I never expected to be my husband. I'm feeling like cheating on Song-yu. In this 1 week, as I come to know him, he's a nice guy and never behaved bad towards me. He always respected me and told me everything about him. But here should I tell him? Should I just say no and apologize to him? Jimin was so lost in his thought that he forgot Taeko came there. They both found him lost and looked at each other. They also know Jimin doesn't want to get married to Song-yu. Without saying anything, Taeyong pulled Jungkook out of the room and took him to an empty place. "Why did you bring me here? Don't you think we should do something to stop this marriage?" What we can do? I just cannot say him like this, Nikki. "I know that, but what can we do now? The marriage is going to start in just 1 hour. We still have time," Taeyong said, and they both started thinking something. Then all of a sudden, Taeyong said, "Why don't we kidnap Song-yu?" "Are you crazy, Taeyong? It's really a bad idea, but I guess it's the last option. You have gone crazy. Listen, Song-yu is getting ready in his dressing room, and we can do it." He was about to leave, but Taeyong stopped him, holding his hand and made him agree to the idea. Somehow, not knowing, something unexpected is going to happen here today. Time skips after 30 minutes. Here Jungkook and Taeyong were talking to Song-yu in his dressing room. Taeyong put a juice glass in front of him and offered him to drink. He looked at Jungkook and blinked because he had put a sleeping pill in the juice so that they can make an end to the plan. Songyu was about to drink, but then the door got opened, revealing his father, who said hurriedly, Jimin is missing, Songyu. What? What the hell are you talking about, Dad? He is not anywhere here. We already found him. Huh? What are you saying, Uncle? I just met him some minutes ago. But we found him everywhere, and where the hell he went? I want him here at any cost, Dad. Did you get it? He shouted, making them all freeze. Taeguk was too stunned to see Songyu this sight, as he never raised his voice and always talked in a calm tone. But this was something new they saw. It was like they saw his another side in just some seconds. Taeyong ran from there towards Jimin's room, and Jungkook also left behind him. His Songyu looked at his father with dark gaze and spoke. Didn't I tell you to take care of this all things? Why the fuck you cannot do anything properly, Dad? It was a chance, and because of your carelessness, we damn lost it. Here, Taeguk entered inside the room where Jimin was getting ready, and they found no one there. Just then, Jimin's father came there and looked at them both. He was looking all worried and tense. His only son was missing, and that too on his wedding day. Uncle, where is Jimin? I don't know, son. We found him everywhere, but he's not here. He was here, as I know, and now let me call him. He pulled out his phone and dialed Jimin's number when they heard the sound was coming from that room. They found Jimin's phone on the dressing table. They all looked worriedly at each other. It was really unexpected to be happening. They looked all over the place in search of Jimin but couldn't find him. Mr. Park was losing his strength and patience when he couldn't find his only son anywhere. He is the only one he loves the most. After searching all around, Mr. Park went to the police station along with Taeguk to report. Mr. Park knows that he has so many rivals and enemies who can hurt Jimin. He could no longer wait to search where his son is. Time skipped after 2 days. Jimin is sitting on the bed lifelessly, and the tray of food is just beside him. He didn't even look at that. All he can just think about the things happened before 2 days. He isn't feeling like eating anything. All his appetite had already died. You guys must be thinking where Jimin is, right? Well, he is in a room of a mansion. But can you guys guess who is the owner of this mansion? The person Jimin never even imagined to be. Let's watch what actually happened before 2 days when Jimin went missing from his wedding venue. Flashback before 2 days. It's 9:45 in the night when Jimin opened his eyes, feeling a slight pain in his head, which didn't last long for so long. He flickered his eyelashes multiple times and slowly tried to open his eyes, looking around, when found himself in an unknown yet a huge room on a huge bed. He remembered that he was in the dressing room sitting there. Then a waiter came there bringing a glass of juice for him. He drank that, and after that he just closed his eyes, and when he opened his eyes, he found himself here in this room. He quickly stood up and jumped off the bed. He remembered that it was his wedding. Where am I? Is it Songyu's room? He roamed around the room when his eyes caught something unexpected. He walked towards the table on which a photo frame was kept. He picked that up surprisingly, but more than surprised, he was confused and shocked. Is it real? He blinked all of a sudden when the door got opened, revealing a figure of a man with his black outfit on. Because of the sudden flinch, the frame in Jimin's hand fell down. He just looked down for some seconds, then found the man walk towards him, and the face was now clearly visible to him. Jimin looked at him with some mixed feelings. He couldn't think of anything, just one word left his mouth. Yoongi. His mind blew up seeing Yoongi there, and the photo in the frame was also Yoongi. Jimin didn't know what he was feeling. His mind stopped working, finding Yoongi in front of him after so many days. Yoongi, what's going on? Did you bring me here? What do you think? he said, leaning towards Jimin's face, eye-gazing him with a weird smirk on his lips, which was giving Jimin a weird feeling. A feeling of fear, which Jimin never felt before. He gulped and started walking backwards when Yoongi was walking towards him. Maybe this was the first time Jimin wasn't feeling good under Yoongi's gaze. What are you doing? Where I am? He stopped his feet when he felt a surface behind him. Are you scared of me, baby? He said, resting his one hand on the wall behind Jimin with his dark gaze on him. What are you doing, Yoongi? What's going on? Why am I here? And what happened to you? Do you want to know a secret, baby boy? Lean more closer to Jimin's face, he spoke and then leaned towards Jimin's ear and whispered, I'm not Yoongi, but Suga. Suga? How can you? And why cannot I? Are you surprised or shocked? Jimin was just looking at Yoongi, couldn't believe what he heard. Suga, a secret mafia leader, ruthless, cruel, and merciless. He was still thinking that Yoongi is lying and joking around. Stop fooling around. You can never be him. I just want to know why I'm here. Why do you think you are here? He said, coming more closer to Yoonmin. You think you can just marry anyone after seducing you for a long time? What do you think of yourself, huh? He said, when their lower body parts collided with each other, making Yoonmin whimper a little. What do you mean? You never had any feelings for me then? Why do you care? Moreover, I moved on, and I couldn't complete what he was about to say when Yoongi pinned his both hands above his head on the wall. Do you think I care? Yoongi, leave me. I don't want to see you. He shouted, trying to push Yoongi away, whose grip tightened more on Jimin's wrist. Now Jimin was feeling pain in his wrist, but not more than his heart. He was just trying to handle all the things messed up in his mind. Do you still think I'm that Yoongi whom you used to seduce? Maybe I told you so many times to stay away, but you never listened to me. I was just controlling myself, and you would keep on teasing my patience. And now it's over. Please let me go, Yoongi. Not anymore, baby boy. Let you do what you wanted. Before Jimin could do or say something, Yoongi harshly smashed his lips on Jimin, who was afraid more than surprised. He tried to push Yoongi but couldn't as his hands were upwards, pinned on the wall. His body became weak and mind was so puzzled. He was still denying the fact that Yoongi is none other than Suga, the secret mafia leader. His mind was still froze when he was feeling Yoongi's lips moving on his ones harshly. Jimin just could feel an anger, desperation in that face. He wasn't moving his lips when his tears were making their way, falling down through his eyes. Here, Yoongi was sucking Jimin's lips like a candy. Not seeing any movement in Jimin, he bit his lower lip, which made Jimin whimper, and getting the chance, Yoongi entered his tongue inside Jimin's mouth. Jimin was still controlling himself not to respond. But then Yoongi slid his one hand down to Jimin's shirt, making a way inside it, which was tucked in his pants. He moved his large hand inside Jimin's shirt on his back, making Jimin moan in a sensation which his cold hands were giving him. He didn't realize when his lips started moving by their own, when he was still controlling himself, but somehow Yoongi's touch was doing its work. Licking Jimin's lips, Yoongi moved towards his neck, sucking it. Meanwhile, his hands were roaming inside his shirt, piercing his chest, his stomach. Jimin spoke somehow while stuttering. Yoongi, please stop it. But he moaned when Yoongi harshly bit his neck and pulled his body more towards him with his one hand, which was roaming inside his shirt. He felt his lower body collided with Yoongi, which was enough to create a mess in his body. Yoongi then left Jimin's hands, which were pinned against the wall, with his one hand. He hurriedly removed Jimin's white blazer, then started opening the buttons of his white shirt, revealing his milky skin. Jimin couldn't able to understand what Yoongi was trying to do, but he could feel an aggressiveness and desperation in his touch and actions. Despite of losing his self-control, he was trying to stop Yoongi, making efforts, but they all were useless against Yoongi's actions. Yoongi was fast enough to open the buttons of Jimin's shirt, was caressing his ass with one hand and another was pulling him closer. He was biting and sucking Jimin's skin. His tongue was giving shivers down to his spine. Without wasting any second, without any hint, Yoongi picked Jimin up in his arms and led towards the bed. He threw Jimin on the bed, making it to bounce. Before Jimin could sense anything, he found Yoongi shirtless standing in front of him. His teary eyes traveled on his face. Jimin was feeling an intensive gaze on him of Yoongi's, who wiped his lips with his thumb and looked at Jimin with his sharp eyes while hovering over him. Jimin somehow tried to utter with his shaky voice, "Why are you doing this, Yoongi? Why? Didn't you want it? Weren't you desperate to have a night with me?" Jimin couldn't say anything as his throat was becoming dry and his eyes were blurred with the liquid while he was under Yoongi. He just could shake his head as no, signaling like he didn't want this. Yoongi smirked and made Jimin look at his eyes. "I don't care if you want it or not, but now I want to make you mine, just mine." "Why? Why?" he said while crying because he wasn't understanding these acts of Yoongi. "You should have thought before seducing me, don't you? I was telling you all the time to stay away, but you didn't. Don't you think it's a time you should pay for your deeds? Let me show you my desperation for you, baby. Let's work and be a good boy." He said all in his deep husky voice and again attacked on Jimin's lips. This time he was more harsh, making Jimin moan. As he got the chance, he entered his tongue inside Jimin's mouth, exploring it. They both were shirtless, but the difference was Jimin wasn't ready for this all, but he couldn't resist and found himself moaning when Yoongi traveled down on his body with his tongue and his hands were mutually working on his body. Jimin moaned loudly when he felt Yoongi's tongue and his hands on his abdomen. Yoongi's hands were opening Jimin's pants slowly. He was already feeling so hot, but the very next second he felt himself when Yoongi pulled his pants down in just a pull, showing his. Yoongi's eyes traveled on it with a smirk. He looked at Jimin's eyes, which were closed. Yoongi didn't know why they were closed, because of shyness, pleasure, or something else. He was just feeling himself hot and hard. Who knows what and why he was doing it. Still resisting when you are already hard, baby. He said and kissed on Jimin's inner thighs, making him moan louder than before. The night was all about their moans, skin colliding and kissing sounds. Yoongi didn't know when Jimin passed out while he was busy in his work. After a tiring session, he collapsed on Jimin's bare body, feeling all hot and sweating. He didn't bother himself to get up and clean himself, but slept there beside Jimin while pulling him closer to him. Next morning, Jimin opened his eyes when he felt uneasy to breathe. His gaze directly went on Yoongi's face as he was facing him. He was feeling Yoongi's hand on his waist, hugging it tightly. Then he realized that he was naked. As he remembered the last night, his eyes filled with tears, which unknowingly touched his skin. He felt so heavy deep inside when his heart was crunching badly, when some things were flashing in his mind. Jimin in mind. "Why you did that, Yoongi? I cannot understand. When you never had any feelings for me, when you always hated me being around you, when you always pushed me away, then why this? Why couldn't you feel my love? Why did you think that I loved you to have you physically? Maybe that's my fault. It's all my fault because I couldn't make it to your heart. I was always yours. Then why you did that? Just to satisfy your desires? He turned his face to another side and bit his lower lip not to make any noise. He then removed Yoongi's hand from his waist and slowly got up while covering his body with a shirt. His body was feeling so weak, so his mind was. He then picked up his clothes from the floor and headed towards the washroom. He cleaned himself, but his eyes were non-stop shedding tears. After taking a bath, he came out when got for seeing Yoongi sitting on the bed. Yoongi gazed at Jimin with his sleepy eyes. He too got off of the bed and walked towards Jimin, who was paused on his place. Jimin broke the eye contact when found Yoongi stepping towards him. Yoongi stopped his feet near Jimin, standing in front of him, looking at his face. Are you alright? Jimin looked straight at Yoongi, not expecting this question of course. He backed away a little when Yoongi tried to touch his face with his hand. It's none of your business how I am. Just leave my way. I wanna go home. And why do you think you can go home? You got what you wanted, right? So now let me go. You cannot go anywhere. Why? Still are not satisfied? Listen to me carefully. You will not step outside of this mansion without my permission. He said deeply, looking in his eyes with his deep voice. Jimin was trying his best not to show his tears, but his eyes were already numb. Why? Any reason? Still you want to use me to fulfill your desires? You can use my body, Yoongi. Oops, Sugar. You're Sugar, right? Just remember one thing, Sugar. You use me physically, but my soul, my love can never be yours. Never. Understood? He said while shedding tears, as he couldn't stop them anymore. I never loved you. I just loved a person who was just an imagination. That can never be you. Never. I hate you and will always. Yoongi didn't say anything and left inside the washroom with his cold and emotionless face, leaving a crying Jimin alone in the room. Flashback end. Jimin point of view. I'm still remembering how Yoongi did this all when I was not in a condition to process anything. I don't know how to react, how to make myself understand that he is not the person I love. Or maybe I just love the personality which doesn't even exist. I'm trying to hate him but not able to. This is all I'm having in my mind right now. Yoongi's words are roaming in my mind, which are hurting me. Though after that, he didn't even touch me or came in front of me. But can it change what he did? No. How can someone hurt a person whom they love? But no, he never loved me. He never. He just used me for his pleasure, just to fulfill his physical desires. And I can never ever forgive him. Yoongi or Sugar, I don't know who you are, but I will never forgive you. Jimin's thoughts got interrupted by the door opening sound. He wiped his tears and controlled them not to show and make himself weak in front of Yoongi. But his eyes automatically went numb, seeing the person there on the floor. Jinyoung motions choked his throat, making his voice low and heavy. Jin immediately walked towards him, standing beside the bed near Jimin, who was fast enough to hug his waist and let out his pain. Jin couldn't say anything, just stroked his head gently. He knew this must be tough for Jimin to accept the real identity of the person he always loved. But does he know what else Yoongi did? Shh, Jiminy, it's okay, said while patting his head. Why wrong? Why he did that? Why he hid it? And why didn't you ever tell me? Why wrong? I'm really sorry, Jin. It's my fault. I should have told you, but I couldn't do anything. I'm sorry. Why wrong? Why he did that when he never had any feelings for me? Why he did? His breath became uneven due to crying. Jin looked at Jimin's face, which was swollen, as well as his lips and eyes. He widened his eyes when he saw purple marks on Jimin's neck, which was slightly visible. He understood what Yoongi actually did. His blood boiled and anger took over him, but he controlled it because it was more important to handle Jimin than talk to Yoongi. He too sat there and hugged Jimin more tightly, giving him some strength. Jin's point of view. I hugged him and patted his head when he is crying like a mess. I know he is feeling betrayed and the thing Yoongi did broke him. It's truly not what I expected from him to do. Wait me, Yoongi. I'm gonna sew you away. After some time, Jimin calmed down a little. He stopped crying, but still I could hear the sobbing sounds. And soon I realized that he slept in my embrace while I was kissing his back softly. I laid him down on the bed and covered him with the blanket. Looking at his weak figure, I'm feeling really sorry. I really need to talk to Yoongi. How can he do such things? Jin left towards Yoongi's room and knocked the door. He entered without explanation because he was really angry right now. Min, Yoongi, how can you do such things with him? How dare you? He shouted and walked towards Yoongi, who was sitting on the couch calmly. Jin held his collar, making him stand, and again said with his angry voice, but this time it was more like whispering, "Why did you do that to him? Don't calm down and leave me," he said while removing Jin's hand from his collar, but that wasn't enough to calm Jin's anger. "What do you think you did, huh? You are well known of the reason now, don't you?" he said again, sitting on the couch, but Jin again spoke aggressively. "It doesn't matter, but was the reason. You did wrong, Yoongi. It was necessary. What was necessary? To kidnap him or to do? Are you out of your mind? Did you ever consider his feelings? Did you ever care? You were supposed to tell him the truth, but you never dared to tell him." Yoongi didn't say anything. No one knows what he was feeling at that time. Just then, the door again got opened when Namjoon entered there and looked at them both with a concerned look. What happened? Why was he shouting Jin? Ask him what he did and why. What he did now? Do you think your brother will expose what he did to that innocent boy? About whom you are talking? Who boy? What Yoon did? Jin told him everything Yoongi did. Namjoon was also surprised and angry because he never expected Yoongi to do this kind of thing. And that too with Jimin. Young, you really, how can you? I cannot understand why. You were supposed to not let happen this marriage. Then why? That's what I am asking him, Johnny. Was he supposed to do that? That boy has nothing to do with this all. You know, and Young, I know you are not someone who can do such things out of desires. Then why? I want you to apologize to him wholeheartedly. Did you get it? Jin said and left from there. He's so innocent, Young, you know, right? And you know very well he never deserved this. You were not supposed to take this kind of step. You should go and tell him everything. Say sorry for everything and let him decide what he wants. Do it before it gets late, he said and also left. Yoongi grabbed his hair frustratedly and looked down. I'm sorry. Couldn't help. I myself don't know what got into me that day. I was not supposed to do that. Was not. I'm sorry. The other side, Jin walked angrily out of the house but stopped when Namjoon held his hand. I'm not in a mood to talk right now, Jin. Just listen to me, Jin. Don't get hyper. Am I getting hyper? Am I? The thing he did, who is like this? I know, but are you taking his side? I'm not, Jinny. I'm just trying to think of his point of view. Then what do you think? He did right? Just tell me one thing. You love me, right? Then would you do something like that without my permission, without my consent? He did wrong and he must realize it. You know what? I know how much Jimin loved him, how much he cared about him. I wish I would have told him. At least I would not feel guilty. You know, he trusted me. Jin, Calm down please. He spoke calmly while holding Jin's shoulder. He knows that Jin is feeling guilty for not telling Jimin anything about Yoongi. So, Yoongi and Namjoon are cousins and Namjoon are married for 1 year now. Of course, Jin knew everything about Yoongi and he wanted him to tell him his real identity. But Yoongi always stopped Jin. He knew it will hurt Jimin, but he wanted to tell him so that he won't get hurt much. But now everything messed up because of Yoongi's action. Time skip. Some more days passed when Jimin didn't come out of that room. It was not like he was prohibited to come out. He was just not allowed to go out of the house and make any phone calls. On the other side, Yoongi didn't go to meet Jimin and tell him the truth, which he was still hiding. Maybe he was feeling guilty for what he did. Whatever the reason was, but it was creating a big misunderstanding in between them. Jimin wanted to know the reason for this all, but still he couldn't gather the courage to go and ask Yoongi. Somewhere his pride was hurt, and Yoongi's disappearance was enough Jimin to think that Yoongi did this just to satisfy his ego. He somehow decided to meet Yoongi so that he can clear everything and go from here. He stepped outside the room and found a servant who always brings food and other necessary things for him. He asked him about Yoongi and got to know that he is in his room. He led Jimin towards Yoongi's room as Jimin didn't know where is his room. The servant stopped in front of a room and told Jimin that it's Yoongi's room and left. Jimin sighed deeply and was about to knock when he heard Yoongi wasn't alone there. Someone else was also there. In Yoongi's room. Do you think he didn't get it yet? I know he did, Namjoon. It was his plan here, so that we can get into his trap. But before he could succeed, I ruined it. He smirked when Namjoon again said, but we should not underestimate him. You know what he did, right? I can never, until I get him down in front of me. But don't you think we should tell Jimin? He has full rights to know. I can handle it. Did you talk to? Just then, Yoongi's phone buzzed and they both looked at the caller ID. They both know who's the person and Yoongi picked it up, not wasting time. He put the call on speaker so that Namjoon can also hear. But they both didn't know that Jimin was also outside and could hear everything on the call. Hi Yoongi, it's been so long. How are you dude? Jimin didn't say anything when the person again said while chuckling. Did you forget your friend Yoongi? How can you forget me? Do you think I can? Oh yes, how can you? After all, we were friends, right? Why did you call? You know very well Yoongi, don't you? I came to know that you kidnapped Jimin, right? You did right actually. He must be hot, right? I'm sure you must have seen his beauty. Yoongi gritted his teeth because he knows in what way he is talking about Jimin, but he didn't say anything. I also wanted to have a taste of him, but unfortunately couldn't. But as a friend, can you help me a bit? After all, he is such a right? Yoongi's anger took over him when he held the phone more tightly, hearing those words for Jimin. He spoke deeply while gritting his teeth. You are right. He is beautiful, more than an angel. Jimin's eyes turned numb when he heard Yoongi's words. He somewhere thought that Yoongi had a respect for him, but these words shattered his heart. It would be better if Yoongi randomly would have said those words, but it was a reply of someone's statement. Jimin ran from there because he didn't want to hear Yoongi's words anymore. He ran in his room without listening the further words Yoongi said. Do you think you can even touch him? I'm just waiting to encounter with you face to face. I'll pull your tongue and eyes out of your body. Calm down, buddy. Calm down. Did you forget what I did? Do I need to remind you that I swear to God, I'll give you the death you have never imagined. You'll beg to die, but you have to live. Dream on, sweetheart. See you soon. The call cut when Yoongi threw the phone on the floor, making it to break into pieces. Young, please, control yourself. It's time to set the trap. I'm sure he will get trapped. It's time to let him taste his own medicine. He will have to pay for his deeds. I'll be always here. After all, it's been 4 years now. After some seconds of silence, Namjoon again interrupted, saying, Young, I'm again saying, please talk to Jimin before it gets too late. Yoongi got lost after hearing. Namjoon, who understands his situation, and again spoke. I know what you are thinking and feeling wrong, but you should at least talk to me. He patted his shoulder and left from there. Time skipped the next day. Yoongi stood in front of Jimin's room and hesitantly held the knob of the door. He encouraged himself to enter and face Jimin after so many days. He slowly opened the door and found Jimin sitting on the bed. He looked at Yoongi expressionlessly, then shifted his gaze to other side and started opening his shirt button, making Yoongi confused. What are you doing? Just making your work easy, he said, still unbuttoning his shirt, and was about to take it off when Yoongi stopped him, holding his hand. Why are you unbuttoning your shirt? Didn't you come to satisfy your needs? I'm just helping you. Shut up and button up your shirt. Wait, did I turn you off? He said, straight looking in Yoongi's eyes, then chuckled sarcastically and spoke. Wait, did you come to me to take me with you to your friend so that he can also do the same you did? It's okay, let's go, he said, and got up of the bed, making Yoongi lose his temper. What nonsense are you talking? Have you lost your mind? What am I talking? Didn't your friend tell you that he wants me on his bed? But Yoongi realized that call from earlier and paused for some seconds. I heard what you were talking. I was thinking of talking to you, but now there's no need. I spent one night with you, and it's not a big deal if I spend one more night with dare to say that. Wait, if you can, then why cannot I? Don't talk nonsense, Jimin. Oh, come on, no. Sorry, Shubha. Well, does that name matter? You're a mafia and must have spent a lot of nights or one night stands with random guys, right? You're talking too much, Jimin. Better shut your mouth about the things you don't know, he said deeply in a strict voice, looking deeply in Jimin's eyes. You are the first man I've ever touched. You are the first man I've ever looked at. You are the only man I had in my embrace. The only man whom I let touch myself. Got it? He was straightforward to say these words to Jimin while looking deeply in his eyes, making him feel a bit nervous, and his stomach curled up with a weird feeling. But he ignored it and spoke. Do you think I believe? I'm not asking you to believe me. Just remember what I said, he said, and left from there, leaving Jimin alone, who felt a lot of feelings inside his stomach, and his body felt goosebumps remembering these words. Jimin looked at himself in the mirror. He was feeling a bit weak. He carries the purple marks on his neck which Yoongi gave that night. Those were not fresh, but slightly visible. It's been almost 3 days. He didn't see Yoongi when he left after saying those words to him. He knew he actually said the things he should haven't, but at the time he was out of his senses and burst out what came in his mouth. He doesn't know why he is feeling like this. Though Yoongi did wrong, but Jimin still isn't able to hate him. Maybe because his love is more stronger than his hate. He sighed and closed his eyes while keeping his hands on the wash basin. He can clearly see his tired feet. Suddenly he felt dizzy and nauseous. He shook his head and turned when his hand unknowingly lay upon the tab which made the shower on. It was all of a sudden which made Jimin panic. His head was already spinning. He tried to turn off the tap, but all of a sudden he fainted. He somehow managed to move his body towards the door but passed out before he could reach his hand to the knob. His eyes became heavy and he felt numbness in his body. when the water was pouring on him, though he was a bit far from the shower.